Age of Empires 4 is a game that, if you really think about it, has been 22 years in the making, ever since Age of Empires 2 way back in 1999. I wasn't a big fan of AoE 3, and while the definitive editions of 1 and 2 were nice, it wasn't what I or others in the community really truly wanted. Having been teased with AoE 4 since August of 2017, there was a lot of hype surrounding the game, with hopes for current gen graphics, loads of new mechanics and features, and who knows what else. After all, this is Microsoft's baby, and I expected a great deal of innovation. However, that's not what we got with Age of Empires 4. Its graphics, while updated for sure, looked like it came out of a not too long after Age of Empires 3, which released 16 years ago in 2005. Its mechanics are 90% the same, with two huge new things being building certain buildings to age up, and some very unique feeling factions. There's nothing truly and remarkably innovative about the game in my opinion from Age of Empires 2. It's almost as if it was not designed to be, which I believe is 100% the case. I'll front load today's information for you in this intro so you know what you're getting into, and also know that timestamps are going to be available for you to skip around as you see fit. In this video, we'll take a look at several pieces of Age of Empires 4. Its user interface and how I can both love how well designed it is for the purpose of clarity and player access to information, even if I don't enjoy the fact that it isn't themed to the various factions or the time period. The uniqueness of factions above everything else that we've seen in Age of Empires, going beyond just some different buildings, different techs, and different units, and how it changes up how we view them and use them in the game. It's single player with its 4 campaigns, from the mission variations and how it guides the player into understanding the basics of the game to its spectacular documentary approach. The multiplayer and skirmish scene and how everything just mentioned ties into the aspect of Age of Empires that kept the entire franchise alive during these last 2 decades. Then into its issues and missing features, including things that were in Age of Empires 2 that should be 100% in this game, down to things like pathfinding and other technical problems. And finally, into whether or not this game is worth $60, how that's not a terribly easy question to answer, and how you can play instead for just $1 for your first month during XboxGamePass's current promotion. The hope is that by the end of this extensive review, you will be able to determine whether or not Age of Empires 4 is a game that you should purchase or not, and at least understand what all is going on at its current release date. So with all that in mind, let's dive into my review for Age of Empires 4. Like most of my reviews, I enjoy starting with the user interface of strategy games because I believe it's the most crucial aspect for any game to grab their players their first time booting up the game, regardless if they're new to the franchise or have been in it since the beginning. Now, I'm also a huge fan of thematically designed user interfaces, that is, a user interface that ties into the game to give you a nice level of immersion. Crusader Kings 3 immediately comes to mind, as does Warhammer 2. Both games take features of the era historically or fantasy and bring that design into where you see all of your information. From that perspective, Age of Empires 4 fails. Its UI is very corporate, white text on a blue background, boxes very neat and compact with a gold border, even its icons are more befitting of phone app covers, clean and straightforward. Even considering its obvious tie-in to the gold building animations, waypoints, and other integrated features, there's nothing in the user interface that ties itself to the time periods of which the game takes place. And yet, I cannot help but to love its style and completely understand its functionality. The UI in AoE 4 isn't meant to bring about immersion, it's purposefully and wonderfully designed for clarity and access to information. Anyone can come into this game knowing nothing about Age of Empires, and while they might struggle with a little bit of what to do, the access to information within the game is simple and effective. And while the trend nowadays is to call this style of user interface like that of a mobile game, I would dare to say congrats to the team for designing with such efficiency. I won't say this often, but while I would have liked to see unique UI for each faction as I expected, the formatting in this game is what gives it a leg up from other strategy games, while also catering to the second reason for its creation, multiplayer. I'm preaching to the choir here when I say that Age of Empires has the multiplayer scene to thank for keeping the franchise alive and well. While I'm not remotely a part of it, the fact that there was a Red Bull sponsored tournament just before release speaks to the popularity of this competitive scene. And one of the best ways to ensure that multiplayer stays popular with a new release inside a franchise is by giving players that ease of access to info, allowing them to quickly and simply know their resource count, their resource generation, borders for special buildings, special abilities, and groupings. The UI was built for this, and it does that very well. If you were hoping for a thematically medieval-esque or faction-unique UI, you will 100% be disappointed, as AoE doesn't deliver in any way on that aspect. But I can't deny that while playing this game, I was impressed by what I saw, and I certainly wasn't complaining about a crappy interface. The team at Relic pulled through in a way I didn't expect, and it works. Having played a ton of AoE 2 back in the day, it's fair to say that the factions in that game felt like they weren't terribly unique. You're talking about a few unique units, some cool faction traits to give you a certain advantage in a very specific situation. The 8 factions in AoE 4 are not built like that. Sure, there's a good deal of similarities when it comes to units, but where factions really shine is in their unique buildings, especially the age leveling ones, their unique units, and their faction abilities. Each of these factions plays very differently than the others. The English, for instance, get a boost to farms and mills with the ability to increase attack speed when spotting enemies, and of course their longbowmen, archers with the greatest range in the game outside of artillery. The Chinese build immensely faster, with a lot more unique units, and a dynasty feature when building both sets of landmark buildings in a new age. The Rus have an animal hunting bounty system that generates gold and increases resource gathering the more animals you kill, along with the unique warrior monk that provides armor and damage bonuses after it attacks the enemy. Each of these 8 has a list of abilities and units in this manner, and there's very little similarities between them in this area outside of your standard kind of obvious units. Heck, even the farms harvest different types of agriculture in most cases. Unlike in AoE 2, it really does feel like I'm playing very different games when I play with different factions, and they each have unique styles that make skirmish and multiplayer a blast to figure out in their metas, advantages, and counters. Moving on to the single player campaigns. In Age of Empires 4, we currently have 4 of them and a total of 35 missions: the Normans, 100 Years' War, Mongol Empire, and the Rise of Moscow. While that may seem like very few missions across the campaigns, having completed about half of them, I can tell you that they do vary greatly, and it will take you a bit of time to get through them, especially at those higher difficulties. What I can tell you is that I had an incredibly fun time playing them. I streamed the Rise of Moscow campaign missions, and my chat absolutely loved everything about it, from the mission objectives, the faction unique mechanics, and everything in between. And it's fair to say that the same reaction has been had across the other campaigns that I played myself, even offline, at least so far. The big difference from AoE 2's campaigns to AoE 4 is the time that spans between these missions. Rarely does a campaign focus on a single person the entire campaign. Like in AoE 2, rather the lifespan of entire nations. The Norman campaign begins at Hastings in 1066 and doesn't end until 1217 at Lincoln. The Rise of Moscow starts in 1238 with its very humble beginnings and expands all the way into 1552. The other 2 campaigns follow suit and all include very famous historical conflicts, which, as a bit of a history nerd, was an awesome experience to behold. Another aspect of the campaigns I noticed is that not only does it do a great job of easing you into the different factions and how to play them efficiently, it's also teaching the player how to be efficient overall. And in my opinion, it seems like Relic and Microsoft designed these campaigns for those who normally play single player, gain some confidence throughout the campaigns, and be more inclined to play multiplayer. The Mongol Empire campaign teaches you the nomadic ways of the Mongols and their mobile space style design, how to effectively use horse archers, not to mention learning how to fight the Rus and the Chinese. I have not remotely mastered their faction, but they are very interesting without a doubt. The Rise of Moscow taught me the benefit of using markets as they should be. I never really used them in AoE 2, and I put that newfound knowledge to good use when I played with Lionheart over in multiplayer, raking in thousands of gold a minute by the late game, even with all my gold mines stripped bare. The Art of War short tutorial series does this fantastically as well. The 2 economic challenges push you to try and reach a gold standard of leveling up from the Dark Age to Feudal Age in 5 minutes, and within 10 minutes from the Castle Age to the Imperial Age, creating hyper-efficient economies, while your last 3 military tutorials teach military counters to troops and siege techniques. Again, Everything surrounding this game allows you to remain in single player if that's what you want to do, but low-key definitely pushes you to multiplayer. And perhaps that might be a reason why we only have 4 campaigns so far. I'm not sure. Honestly expected more than that for release, especially considering the $60 price tag they have on the game now. Sure, these 4 campaigns are great, and I'm enjoying them a ton. I just expected that with 8 factions, we'd get at least a majority of them, not half. The last piece of the single player campaign is hands down the best piece of this entire game in my opinion, and a reason for anyone who's remotely interested in history to play these campaigns, the cinematic documentary videos. Starting and ending each campaign is a documentary series going through the history of each campaign. This series was shot in real life on actual historical sites, and then AoE 4's gold animations laid over these sets to give us the historical context. And I will tell you right now, they are incredibly well done. The animations are grounded in their real-world sites. Soldiers follow terrain without hardly any clipping. Fortifications look like they actually belong there. It is so professionally done that oftentimes it's the mission cinematics that were my ultimate goal in finishing a mission, not necessarily the mission itself. And speaking of completing missions, when you do complete a mission, you unlock extra videos surrounding different aspects of the faction's warfare tactics, battles, and other larger conflicts, truly giving you an entire documentary around each of the campaigns. It's this documentary series inside the 4 campaigns that I believe is a big reason for the hefty price tag. The amount of work surrounding filming on site and then overlaying the artwork so seamlessly had to consume a large sum of funds, and with COVID restricting travel as it did, I have to wonder if these documentaries were in part why the game took so long to release. If that is the case, then I am happier for it. That's how much I enjoyed them, and I sincerely hope that every campaign they put out through development has the same level of documentary professionalism attached to it. Now that we've established the single player campaign, it's time to move on to multiplayer and skirmish battles. Multiplayer and skirmish is rather straightforward, as it always has been with Age of Empires, with its exceptions. The largest of these exceptions is that there are some very purposefully designed map presets centered around certain factions in their home regions in the world. Not only that, but these maps are scalable in ways that I haven't seen in previous AoE games. For instance, if we were to take the Boulder Bay map, it's a map that splits the players up by a swath of ocean with a sacred site in the far corner. If I play this map on a 2v2 micro size, I would get the exact same features as I would on the gigantic 8-player map. Obviously, resource deposits and things of that nature would be different, but you are essentially playing the same game map, which was a pretty cool feature to discover. Not only that, in skirmish mode, you can then select a biome, which shapes the appearance of your maps, giving you even more flexibility just from an aesthetics perspective. It's a small detail change, but it creates some solid variation in game setups that it can be enjoyed by both single players in skirmish and in multiplayer mode. Multiplayer, man, it's tough. This is my first real foray into that side of Age of Empires, but I can tell you right now that I just really kind of suck at it. And fail not so much in the early game, but the late game meta and how to overcome some overwhelming odds. But what I do enjoy about multiplayer is the user interface. Everything about it is designed well for this scene. Resource numbers are compiled together on a block on the left side, very well done. I can hover over that and see exactly how much I'm making per minute, which allows me to think ahead a bit or see which resource needs more villagers on it. Groups are easier to see and manage across the board, and so much information is just easily shown for the player. My biggest issue lies in categorizing the buildings. Having grown up with AoE 2, in which one page is economic buildings, the other page is military, it's oftentimes still awkward for me to see buildings grouped by their different ages. And even 20 hours in, I'm having a hard time finding my dadgum barracks building because I, by default, expect it to be with my archer and my stable icons, or remembering that my keep isn't in with all my walls, it's separate in its own area. Makes for some frustrating times, especially in multiplayer where correct clicks are crucial to success. And yet, despite the fact I've lost vastly more times than I've won, I still really enjoy the multiplayer scene. I don't get triggered when I lose, because I've already accepted that I suck at multiplayer, and without any ranked system currently in the game, I don't doubt that I'm going up against people who probably played multiplayer for the last 20 years. It's a weird place to be in, and I expect the multiplayer scene to get a little bit easier to ease into once ranked is up and running. The other great piece of multiplayer is the lobby system, something I didn't expect to take note of when I started playing with friends. Accessing your friends list is a piece of cake, as is inviting them to your group. Both are simple, accessible clicks of a clear button. You can also add players from previous matches with the same simple click of a button. Again, considering the emphasis on multiplayer, I'm glad they made things incredibly simple to get this part of the game operational without issues. This section is also where I'll address the graphics of the game, and it's the most fitting place for this review. As mentioned in the intro, I wanted and expected Age of Empires 4 to have 2021 graphic standards. I wanted Total War level details, to have realistic building sizes, and vast armies of just drop-dead amazing looking troops. Yet the initial trailers and betas put me in a sour mood initially because those levels I expected were not remotely met. I had to take a step back and just get over myself a little bit to see the bigger picture here. The graphics in this game are very intentionally designed to be not stellar in several ways, for several reasons, namely again for multiplayer. Units have overly large weapons so that you as the player can quickly and efficiently determine what that unit is and how you can use it. The building details are designed for the same reason, to be able to quickly know what the building's function is and use it appropriately. Stone walls are freaking huge because you have to have those overly large units on top of them. This is a feature, by the way, that I'm so happy made it into the game. Even resource deposits are designed to show off the type of deposit and its size, indicating the richness of it, allowing for player priority in mining it. This, in a way over stylized but early 2000s style graphic standard, gives players that easy access I keep coming back to, and also lets players of less powerful PCs to be able to play and still enjoy the game. Well, that's the goal anyways. Currently, AoE 4 sucks a ton of single core processing power and a great deal of GPU power, but that can surely be fixed with a few optimization patches. Relic and Microsoft both understand the importance of multiplayer in this franchise, and they obviously wanted the largest number of people playing the multiplayer as possible and have catered their designs to that scene. And with that in mind, not quite so triggered by the graphics anymore, and quite honestly can now enjoy the game better with that mindset. Knowing and understanding that Relic and Microsoft have purposefully not designed this game with the latest gen graphics helps ease the still little bit of disappointment that we didn't get a super graphically intense RTS game. For how much emphasis there is on multiplayer scene and creating a smooth experience, there are some standards and features missing from previous games and other issues that I've seen in my time playing. The first of these missing features for me is an auto explorability for your scouts, forcing another level of micromanagement in the early game that I simply don't need. It's possible that since sheep follow your scouts now, the auto explore feature might cause some conflicts, such as automatically finding sheep without searching yourself, but I still don't understand why such a feature was removed entirely. I'd be willing to forego the sheep gathering ability in multiplayer in order to get that auto explore feature back. Maybe they'll add it back on a later date depending on community feedback. The other larger issue is the lack of a custom map builder, standard map modes, mod functionality, and a measly 200 population max limit. Ironically enough, if you boot up Age of Empires 4, the first bit of news you get on the right hand side is a letter to the Age community, stating their appreciation in keeping Age of Empires alive through, wait for it, custom maps, more map modes, and their modding abilities. It's kind of a slap to the face to a community who has spent the last 20 years working hard to get features and mechanics implemented into definitive editions and spend time and effort crafting all these amazing things, only to be stuck with almost no support inside of this brand new game. Not to mention that, even though we might be seeing some graphics quality from the early 2000s, we shouldn't be seeing such a low population max. Depending on the army and economy setups, a 200 population may be 40+% villagers, leaving around 100 to 130 population just for armies. And considering the makeup of some of these factions, that's not a terribly huge army, especially if you're playing a sea-focused map, in which you have to split between your army and a functional navy. Seems a bit ridiculous to have such a limiting factor in a game like Age of Empires. Are any of these features coming? No idea. I haven't seen nor heard of a roadmap for the future of AoE 4. I mean, it has to be coming at some point in the future. but from a PR perspective, if you thanked your community for their efforts in some very sought after levels like the ones mentioned above, you better make dang sure that you have the same features and mechanics available to the same community. How many modders were beyond excited for this game? How many map designers? Right now they're stuck playing the base game. And yes, I understand the game just came out, but you know there are a lot of people ready to dive into modding and designing from day one. And right now there's no answer as to when they'll be able to do that. With those bigger things aside, there are some other issues with the game, more quality of life things compared to what's been mentioned. One of the more frustrating ones is performance, as I've mentioned before. My PC runs an i7-8700K, a GTX 1080 Ti, and 32 gigabytes of RAM. Considering the graphic quality and a low population max and matches, I shouldn't be seeing many performance issues in my opinion. While it's not awful by any means, frame rates do tend to drop hard when simply moving the camera. Considering that this RTS game requires you to do a lot of camera movements to get where you want, this is a big deal. I've read that it's due again to that single core limiter and a huge drain on your GPU, so hopefully some optimization patches will be on their way now that statistics are pouring in from release. Next are unit charges and unit attack selections. Currently, if I charge into a group of enemy units, say having clicked the very middle guy, you'll see your own units circle around the enemy endlessly as they try to maneuver their way into that central person with very little to no inclination to fight the units they are surrounding. Makes for some extremely frustrating scenarios where my units get cut down thanks to a lack of AI understanding. It'd be great to see something along the lines of initial contact with any enemy unit, stopping your own, so they'll then fight the people in front of you. Unit pathfinding is also a bit wonky to me at times, and in ways they don't make sense. I've had units choose to go completely around a mountain rather than cut through some woods that would make the trip much faster. Or see one or two units in a group of 30 get stuck on a piece of wall where none of the others did. It's not a terribly huge pain in the butt, yet as I've mentioned in the game's a multiplayer, it has tended to add more microing of my units than I care for in a scene where one wrong misclick could spell disaster for my own armies. Overall, none of these are game killers for me, although the lack of missing features does have an effect on justifying the purchase at $60, but more on that in the next section. The issues featured in this video are fixable with some patches that are undoubtedly coming at some point, I am sure, but they are nonetheless important to state for a game that's just been released and for the purpose of this review. After quite the extensive look at the game across the various eras, it's down to the nitty-gritty price point. Is this game worth $60? And my answer, it's not terribly simple. I understand why this game is $60. For one, it's Microsoft. They know they can charge $60 for a game in this franchise and people will not bat an eye at it and just buy it. We've been waiting 20 plus years. Well, technically 4 years since the announcement. Second, the production quality surrounding the campaign documentaries could not have been cheap whatsoever, so you are 100% paying a lot more for AoE 4 because of that. But it also depends on what type of player you are. As a typically single player campaign person only with games like this, I would feel pretty slighted. Only 4 campaigns, on average 9 missions per campaign. Sure, the documentary aspect is cool, but the campaign side of the game, that's all you're after, is definitely not worth $60 on its own. How about those who primarily only play skirmishes and multiplayer? I would also feel a bit slighted. No mods, only 3 game types, no map creator, and again that limited max population size seems quite a bit restricting considering I can hop back down to Age of Empires 2 and have a massive amount of options to play with in multiplayer. The 8 factions are great and it's a very solid start, but there's only so much that you can do before you played it all. You can't make customized things. However, if you're into both sides of the game as I am now, then I would say it's definitely worth the price, even if it's a hefty one. I'm really enjoying the single player campaigns, but now that I have some friends to play multiplayer with, something I sadly didn't have for Age of Empires 2, that side of the game I never touched is one that I will be enjoying regularly now. The bugs and missing features are still a pretty big hit, but if you're thinking long-term gameplay, I think it's safe to say that Relic and Microsoft will add those in soon to satiate the community. I was definitely upset at first about the lack of graphical innovation in AoE 4, but having realized the scope of the game and its ultimate goal for that multiplayer scene that kept it alive all this time, I'm a bit more understanding of the situation. It's meant to feel like Age of Empires 2 in many ways, so if you're expecting something different, you will indeed be disappointed. If you don't want to fork over $60 for a single game, I highly recommend trying out Xbox Game Pass. They have a current promotion for $1 for the first month, $10 a month after that for the PC side only. And there are some fantastic strategy games on Game Pass, like all the definitive editions of the previous Age of Empires games, Halo Wars 1 and 2, City Skylines, and of course Crusader Kings 3, which, if you combined all of those, would go well beyond $10 a month anyways. For that amount, I'd 100% recommend Games Pass to at least try the game out. Then, if you want to own it yourself on Steam, you can purchase the game in full. Age of Empires 4 surprised me. I went in a bit grumpy and expected a bit of a flop, but I came out so far with my mind changed in almost every aspect of the game, and I can't wait to get back into it for a good while more. And that will wrap up this review for Age of Empires 4. I do hope you enjoyed the thorough look into the game. Be sure to let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed any piece of this review or simply agree with the overall opinions expressed, please be sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, turn on bell notifications. They help immensely with helping content be found by the YouTube algorithm and therefore channels. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, everybody. This is Havoc, and I will see you all in the next video.
Camels.
Camels.
Camel archers. Hundreds. What now, Commander?
We attack.